video you're watching is literally a Bigfoot video. Yes, I'm doing a Bigfoot video. This one's labeled in quotes, original video. Marble Mountain Bigfoot is the name of it. And depending on where you look, it's the cat's meow, cat's pajamas, or a cat box. Nevada County, California. Campus Life. 18-person youth group. Leader, Jim Mills. On a backpacking trip, 2001, or it was year 2000. Depending on where you look it up, the report of this has been submitted for various different years. Sometime in June, apparently. Bigfoot and a den, and a shaky cam VHS-only recording that had been, quote, misplaced and or remained, quote, underground, but was only revealed and discovered after he died. And it was uploaded 10 years later and a month, or maybe it's 11 years, 2011, July 7th, by two YouTube channels that are related. One of them is called Nevada County Campus Life. That is a channel that started just a few days before as a channel that was posting basically one video, a tribute to Jim Mills because he'd recently died. And a YouTube Machinima Partner Gamer channel that had been started in 2010, so it was about a year old. It's obviously one of the kids who was on the trip or somebody who knew him, called PurpleWookies and or Purple Grizzly. The channel is now a pro photographer and was at the time a friend of the family. Now I'm going to point out a couple of things here. I understand this person's no longer with us. I also understand that the person's been not alive for more than a decade. And I'm going to say some things about the video and the production of it. This is one of the ending shots. We would call this an establishing shot if it would have done any good. So let's start with dismantling it. Extreme zoom distortion and overexposure of a guy up on a ridge with bedding tied to a backpack and using two hiking poles to walk along a ridge wearing oversized clothing. That's literally the entire content of the video. It is not Bigfoot. It's not oversized. Compared to an average tree, yes, there are a few Google Street Views and Google Spheres people put up, and also on Google Earth, very few though, that show you the average size trees in the area. This is an area that's been tree farmed, effectively, or clear cut. Most of it shows signs of it. You can look up BLM and all that kind of stuff, showing that the area is not old growth, which means when the guy walks past a tree, it's about average size for a normal person, not an enormous 8-foot person or bipedal hominid. So to get to the point, no, it's not Bigfoot. The trick here is that you set the exposure on the camera extreme enough that it's, and also point at a source that's backlit like it is, to where you can't possibly get a clear image. The problem with this is it didn't work. There's like 8 or 9 frames that accidentally focused cleanly enough that people could figure out that the color patterns, the color gradients, the chromo key, yada yada, showed that the person was wearing clothing. It's just somebody in normal clothes. So let's move on. The location as given on 5 different websites amounts to this bunch of information that's teased out, either through people contacting the person in the comment section and then having the comment deleted later, or it's still being there by people who submitted the story to various UFO and Bigfoot sites requesting it be evaluated. And also, honestly, this is what we got. The location as given was, quote, Northern California. That's probably accurate. Now, the other expression, it was 20 miles from the nearest road. Okay. But it was also listed at, depending on where you look it up, nearest to Fort Jones and or Highway 3. Highway 3 goes past this pathway here. And it was also supposed to be in Marble Mountain Wilderness and or Range, right here. Okay, that makes sense. That's fine. Here's the problem. It was claimed as being north of Mount Shasta, which is over here. Marble Mountain Wilderness Range is 10 miles west of Fort Jones only. and 20 miles from one end to the other almost. Almost. It's not that damn big. And the claim again was that it was near Fort Jones and or that road, but that's 52 miles away from Mount Shasta. But technically on a north, east-west line, it is north of Mount Shasta. It's just that nowhere near it. And okay, so what do we have to work with here? Literally nothing. All we know is it's in this vague area which is within the Klamath Forest. It's a subsection in Klamath Forest. It is surrounded by these roads when you look it up on this map. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick thing here, but again, this is about 10 miles or 20 miles or whatever. This is 52 miles to this edge here. Excuse me, it's not to the middle point or something of that nature. What that means is this is what you would think a reasonably small area. And it's surrounded entirely by highways and communities and cities, but it is a wildlife area. Now I'm going to go back and forth between this and another map. This is the map showing Google Street Views. I try to line it up as good as I can. This is the bottom end of Forks of Salmon. Here we go. Here's that highway and this little diddly bit here. That seems to match. And the rest of it matches, so we're pretty good there. Within this area that we're going to decide is the Marble Mountain Wilderness, regardless of mentioning Mount Shasta, which has nothing to do with this. I want to point out something. These instructions sound like somebody trying to make sure you can't find their fishing hole. Oh yeah, go north of Mount Shasta. It's just a little ways north of there. And also it's by Highway 3, which goes literally through here, which is nowhere near it. And also it's by Fort Jones, but it's 20 miles away from any road. Okay, so anyway, inside of this, which I'm going to call all of those dots in the middle inside because I don't have a choice. Within that national forest area that's named, we have a total of half a dozen Google spheres or Google Street Views. None of them are near it. So how do we locate it? Okay, well, we look for, quote, 20 miles from the nearest road. Okay, well, the nearest road that Google Street View can see is this. And guess what? The whole area there is a specific diameter. I mean, someone gave not just vague instructions, but conflicting instructions as to the location and had a video uploaded. Let's go through the video. But yeah, that's where you'd have to look, in that bottled in area there. Claims during the video is that branches on the nest are all broken. None were tool cut, but many were cut with a saw. There's also, at 1 minute and 30 seconds approximately, baling twine in the image, and many other times, that was used to hold this together. So Bigfoot is tying things together. He knows how to tie knots. He knows how to wrap cord he finds. Okay. The first part of it is actually the videographer saying the following. Some kind of creature did it. When he was referring to and making fun of the debris shelter the 18 kids he brought with him made because they made it a bit too big for a human size. If you don't know about debris shelters, you make them very, very small. For survival, you make them take up the least amount of space. And what we have here in each image is that a kid can fit in the doorway, but it goes on for a long distance. Debris shelters are not normally made with the heaviest logs you can get your hands on, and or they're not normally made from just pine boughs. And here's a kid. Okay, this is supposed to be an 8-foot tall bipedal hominid that is a mystery creature, but it's tying knots and using, I'm not kidding about the cuts in the saws, the saw cuts. Those are cuts that were done with a chainsaw. So, oh well, he found them out. The claim during the video is that none of it was cut. All of it is broken off, which means it has to be somebody big and powerful. It doesn't have to be. Somebody's using baling twine. They built this. What happened is he took his. These are like outward bound kids. Took them out in the forest and showed them how to build a debris shelter to make themselves safe during winter. If snow is falling, the snow will land on all the branches and create pretty much an igloo. But no, this isn't a shelter that would fit an 8-foot tall hulking monster. That's it. Anyway, this was Nevada County, California Campus Life 18-person youth group, possibly Christian youth group, don't know. The leader was Jim Mills, and he's a beloved person in the community. And he went on a backpacking trip with all these guys in 2000 or 2001, sometime during summer it looks like. And they found that den or lean-to, or somebody else built it, or they built it. And he did VHS video footage that had been digitized and dumped on the internet later on, years later, and it was uploaded by a channel that was essentially started just to honor him, and another channel that had existed for about a year. It's probably one of his students or one of his friends or a family member, might have been his son, that originally was a machinima channel and still is. And again, it was in quotes, original video, Marble Mountain Bigfoot. And the extreme zoom, distortion, and overdrive of the light behind it would make anything look weird, and any human being could be made to look tall and skinny, so it looked like a Bigfoot. But really, it's just a guy with bedding tied to his backpack, using hiking poles and walking along a ridge. And depending on which version of the video you look at, you can see that there's cord attached to it. And you can tell that the long arms, quote unquote, are just hiking poles. The instructions on where this happened narrowed down to this, but also include the words north of Mount Shasta. That's Mount Shasta, the mountain, and that's the city. None of this has anything to do with this area over here, which is actually the Marble Mountain Wilderness. Let's assume that it's in this area. All right, we can. It'll be X number of miles across, and again, the claim was it was, quote, 20 miles from the nearest road. Well, in this case, all of it is 20 miles from the nearest road because it's ringed by them. And again, the claim is that it was near Fort Jones and near the road, number three highway, and all this. So except for the diversion of mentioning Mount Shasta, which I think is literally like trying to hide your favorite fishing hole, it's somewhere in this circle, and they were there, and they either found a debris shelter or made one, and he was making fun of it as being way too big to be a good debris shelter, which is correct. It's just a bit too big. And he was joking about it. And then one of them said, look, it's Bigfoot. And notice some guy hiking on a ridge. And unless I have access to some really good information, there's like 100 ridges in this small area. Relatively small area. So, yeah, we're done. So, if anybody knows exactly where this was recorded, please give up the data. If you don't, fine. But everything about this says it wasn't Bigfoot. And everything about this says someone was having fun uploading a video by someone they loved that was a really cool story, bro, and it got uploaded, and it got 2 million views. I think the guy would have been proud that he made a really cool video that got 2 million views on YouTube. I think that's perfectly acceptable. Claiming this is a mysterious thing and it's a Bigfoot is not acceptable. I'm sorry to be a party pooper. And again, the man has not been alive for over a decade. This is not dishonoring someone's memory. I'm not saying anything bad about the guy. He was just joking around with the other kids, and they were playing along, making a cool video for fun. And anybody who takes it more serious than that, I think they're dishonoring someone's memory. Because I think the guy was probably not so straight-laced he wasn't above having fun and making a joke and doing a YouTube video. If he had been alive today, I'm sure he would have uploaded even more fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with